When you have that feeling of not good enough, just stop and just take some deep breathing, put your body back in parasympathetic nervous system is now activated, that now you can think. And once you become to think, different ideas would come up.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Reflect Forward. I'm your host, Kerry Siggins, and I'm so glad you are here today. I love my guest today. I just was so excited to have somebody who is a clinical practitioner in hypnotherapy on the call, because hypnotherapy helped me so much as I was recovering from substance abuse. So when Curtis McCullom, my guest today, came across my podcast, I knew I had to have him on. Curtis is a human potential coach who understands that no two journeys are the same, and that's why he offers these custom bespoke solutions tailored to your own unique needs. And he uses hypnotherapy to really help you understand your patterns and your triggers and to release them and to put new programming in so that you can create the success that you want. This is such a fun conversation. I know you're going to absolutely love it. So hang tight and I'll be right back with Curtis. All right, everyone, welcome back. I have Curtis McCullom with me here today, who is the CEO of Bespoke Human Potential Coaching. He's also a clinical hypnotherapist. Curtis, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Kerry, for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. So I love hypnotherapy. I've used it very much part of my healing journey. I loved when I saw that you were a clinical hypnotherapist. So tell me a little bit about your coaching practice and why you bring hypnotherapy into it.
Well, when I started like 40 years ago, I wanted to be a coach. They didn't call them coaches back then. They call them sales trainers or motivational speakers. So that's what I wanted to be. And so I said, well, let me go into sales first to see, does it work? So I started that way. And when I started with the company, in less than 2.5 years, I was number one in the company. And the modality that I used was hypnotherapy, along with visualization and those types of tools. When I got to coaching almost 40 years later, I tell people you don't have to have a 40-year journey. It can be much straighter than a 40-year journey, but that's what it was. And that's what life brought me. So that's where I am right now. So after 40 years, I got a certification as an executive coach. Hated it. Like, oh no, this is not what I do. This is not how I actually perform. This is not what made me successful. So I went back and got a certification as a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm also a master practitioner in Neurolinguistic programming, and also a master practitioner in mental and emotional release. So I put all of those modalities together and I formulate a framework, which I coach from now, which I call the legit mindset, which is learning, growing, expanding, and transforming.
Love it. I love it. I love all of these things. I am so into neuroscience and definitely into emotional release, especially through the body.
Yes.
And then hypnotherapy. So we're going to have such a fun conversation. So tell us a little bit more about the legit mindset and how it works. Can you dive into detail with the acronym?
Yeah, basically legit mindset, and legit stands for learning, growing, expanding, and transforming. I was asking God, I believe in God. If you call it the universe, whatever you call it, that's okay. Don't get upset and write her letters or me letters. But I call it God, and I was asking God, what is it that we do? What is it that can bring all this stuff together? Because something was not clicking with me. I was born and raised in a Christian family. My dad was a fire and brimstone preacher, and I'm like, this still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What is it that people need? And I was reading a book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Weiss, and in that book, he talked about learnings in life, in between lives, and afterlife. This explosion went off in my brain. Oh, so that's what it is. But I didn't call it legit. I call it something else, let God or whatever. And the guy I was talking to, one of my clients, he says, wow, he looked at the letters and says, what if you change this to LG and not whatever I had it? And he said, then you can call it legit. I said, oh, that's great. So we call it legit. What we try to do is go into the subconscious mind and teach a client what is it that actually drives their behavior. And once we understand that, we uncover and we start to release the blind spots. So we're learning about who we are, what drives behavior, and then growing is actually releasing those emotions. My philosophy is that instead of starting with goals, most coaches start, hey, let's set a goal. You set a goal with bad soil, sooner or later, you're going to have a lot of weeds. Let's get rid of all the old weeds so that now we're playing with a clear path. And we clear all the negative emotions through mental emotional release, which is the growing phase. Then we're expanding, getting a clear vision, clarity, understanding now where we're going, who we want to become and not what we want to do. So we want to become before we do, and we want to do before we have. Transformation is not a one-time thing. It's just like brushing your teeth or dental hygiene and anything else. You have to do it on a daily basis. So what I create for my clients, I create what I call bespoke daily mental supplements, which are short meditations on different topics based on what they have released in our session. So it's all bespoke. Everything is for them and usually for them only. I do have some general ones on my site, but all the ones I create for my clients are what we call bespoke daily mental supplements.
Oh, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about blind spots, because we don't know that they're blind spots because we can't see them. So how do you use your process to identify those blind spots?
Usually when a client comes to me, they know that there's something within their being is actually stopping them from becoming the best version. They can't put their finger on it. And usually they come with what we call issues. Think about a tree. A tree has a lot of leaves, which is all the issues, what's actually driving its behavior. And most of the time, these leaves have like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, imposter syndrome, and fear, anger, guilt, sadness. All of these are leaves. What we do is to figure out what is the root cause or the greater problem, so that if we can get to the root and we can get rid of the root, we can get rid of all the other issues. Everybody has a blind spot, but my blind spot may not be preventing me from becoming the best version of myself. It's something I can live with. It's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I know I don't do this well, but it's not preventing me from getting 6, 7 figures. But then if it's a blind spot in my situation is now I want to move, I want to grow, but there is something that's preventing me from doing what I want to do. And that's kind of where we do the release work from.
At least in my experience, blind spots, we don't see them because the way that we show up just comes so naturally. So one of my blind spots is that I move very fast and I have the ability to handle a huge amount of workload.
Okay.
And I just think that's how people are, because that's how I am, right? Isn't that how everyone is? And so early in my leadership days, as I'm like driving, people was like, why are you not keeping up with me? I realized this was a huge blind spot for me in the fact that I didn't understand other people, and that, okay, just because this is how I show up does not mean that's how other people are going to or even want to show up. And so I had to work on ways to be able to slow down, not go after every new idea just because I thought, well, we can handle it. And I had to learn how to distract myself. I started speaking and writing and doing all of these things so that I had a way to be able to pour my creative energy into something meaningful and productive, and not into driving all my employees crazy because I'm like, let's go, let's move. And when I uncovered that blind spot, it was so incredibly powerful. It made me a much better leader and much more compassionate to the fact that, okay, yes, this is how I show up. It doesn't mean it's how everybody else shows up or even wants to show up.
Right.
And here are things that I can do that still fulfills and meets my needs, but doesn't create chaos within the organization.
So we take your blind spot, right? One of the tenets of neurolinguistic programming is respect the person's model of the world.
Yeah.
Meaning that I have to understand that everybody doesn't operate the same way I operate. Everybody don't have the same beliefs, values that I do. And I can stop and pause and appreciate where they are. And what you did was what we call a pattern interrupt. So you said, okay, I got this loop. I got this habit loop that I'm driving my employees crazy. What can I do? So when I have that feeling or sensation that I want to put something on them, let me do this. Instead, let me pour myself into writing. Let me pour myself in creativity so that it doesn't drive my employees crazy. So that's what we do. We figure out what's triggering this behavior, and then how can we now take that trigger instead of it running the old program, which you had an old program was you were driving your employees crazy. You said, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want something instead. And that's what we do. Perfect example of a great blind spot, how to get rid of it.
I had a really good friend tell me probably about a year ago, I was just starting a divorce and I was complaining about my ex-husband and how he was speaking to me in a really condescending way.
Right.
And she said, that is your trigger. That is not him and his responsibility. That comes from someplace else. And until you start owning your triggers, they're going to own you. And I was so grateful for that feedback because that trigger comes from some childhood trauma, the way that I was taught, like, you're stupid, you're not smart enough. So anytime someone speaks condescendingly to me,
Yeah.
or I perceive it to be,
Yes.
I get triggered. And then I put it on them of like, why are you doing that? And switching that mindset of like, no, 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 that's my trigger. That comes from something that this person has no responsibility for. And while I have a responsibility to understand that about me, it doesn't mean that it's his to own. So how do you teach your clients how to own their triggers?
And one of the agreements that we have is, which is powerful, that you have to take total responsibility wherever you are in life right now. And that's one of the scariest things that most people want to experience, because nobody want to own their stuff. It's mama, cousin, brother, on my nephew's side. That's their fault. That's not my fault. Well, yes. Mom might have triggered something. You might have accepted or decided something in your childhood. You don't have to blame her for it. Now you are grown. You have resources within yourself to become the best version of yourself, so you can change it. That's the beautiful part about it. One of my professors always said, hey, best thing about writing is rewriting. Whatever behavior it is, we're not our behaviors. That means that we have the resources within us to rewrite who we want to become. And that's so powerful. And that's empowering when we finally take a stand and says, okay, I own this. I can't blame mom for it. I can't blame dad for it. I can't blame my ex-husband for it. I have the responsibility. When he says something, I can make the choice of, no, I'm good enough. I'm worthy. I'm more than good enough. That's his challenge. That's his perception of the world, not mine. And that's what we have people do, is change their perception of the world. Whatever we believe is true is really not true. Another tenet in neurolinguistic programming is that the map is not the territory. Think about it though, even with your employees, if they understand that perception, they're looking at this world through their eyes. And when we look at it through our eyes, we have 2 million bits of information coming to us every second. And we can only process about 164, 144 bits of information. So if we all got 2 million bits coming in, and I have 2 million bits coming in, we're not going to see the world the same.
Wow.
I was born and raised in Mississippi. I was born and raised in the 60s. My dad was like I said, he was a pastor. He was a preacher. So I brought up in a religious household. So if something happens in my world, it's going to be totally different for you, Kerry. And we can appreciate that. We can learn that. Wow, how powerful we can be.
So you've talked about neurolinguistic programming quite a bit. Let's give a definition of that in case any of my listeners don't know what that means. And can you talk about how we get programmed and how we unprogram ourselves?
But neurolinguistic program, thinking about neuro is mind. So basically the mind, linguistic is language, the language that we either physically come into us or how we actually accept language. And programming is actually, think about an app. So that's the program that's actually running in our nervous system. Our neurology is, we run programs, we run strategies. Like you said before, one part of your strategy was you had a trigger, your husband would say something, you triggered and you responded. That's a strategy. So you said, I got to change that strategy. When he says something, I'm going to trigger, no, I am good enough. And then the response is, hey, I'm living the way I want to live. So we all run these programs that we have. The challenge is that most of us don't know the program. We have no idea. These programs usually are installed between the ages of 0 and 7. And they're so deep within our subconscious, it's not a conscious belief. It's not like, this is what I believe. A really quick example, even for myself, I was still running an old program that said that success is hard and difficult. Success is hard. And so every time I would hit a high point, I would still kind of crash and burn. I'm like, what is this running? And I had a friend of mine says, hey, let's do some mental and emotional release on success is hard and difficult. When we did put myself in a relaxed state, what came up was I was around 2 years old that I accepted and decided this belief. I checked it out. I says, Mom, what was happening in my life at 2 years old? She said, oh, son, what was happening was your sister was being born and I needed you to be out of diapers. And this is what she said. And it was hard and difficult for you to be potty trained. So that programming at age 2 that I accepted, it wasn't my mom. You know, people says, well, your mom, no. Basically, she was doing the best she could with the resources she had, right? And so I accepted and decided this program, and every time I came number 1 in the world, like I told you, in less than 18 months, two and a half years. What I do, I burn. I'm like, then I was doing $1 million in sales a year in financial services. My wife says, Curtis, that's so easy for you. And I looked at her, I'm like, you don't understand. This is very hard and this is very difficult. So these programs that we're running sometimes are so deep in the subconscious that we don't even know that they're running. And this is the truth, Kerry, is that sometimes it's so subtle. And the root of it, what we call a gestalt, sometimes this gestalt will be like sadness, right? We'll just use sadness. But every time you hear a song, you feel that sadness. But where did that sadness actually start? It could have easily started when you were a little child and you lost something. Your pet died and you became sad. That became the root of that. But you never really linked it to that particular incident. So that's kind of what we do too. What I do is help individuals find out what the root is. We pull up the root and then we give them new learnings all the way through to where they are now today.
This resonates with me so much. Mine was, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough as I am. So I have to be somebody different.
Right.
And it starts with my dad telling me I wasn't smart enough, right? So my trigger there. But I didn't understand that. Throughout my whole life, I was very motivated, very driven, but I was always thinking I wasn't good enough.
Right.
And so I had to achieve, approve myself. And my personality is one of being a boundary pusher and a little bit wild. I like to see how far I can push things to the edges. And that combination of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy as I am, and boundary pushing led to substance abuse. And I accidentally overdosed on Labor Day of 2006. And as I decided that I was going to live instead of die, that was the first thing I had to ask myself is, why am I making these decisions? I have no idea why I'm making these decisions. And so that became this idea that you talk about, reflection to transformation, of understanding that was the program that I was running. And then I had to learn what it was so that I could unlearn it.
Yes. And that's so important. And we talked a little bit about it earlier, is that one of the challenges that most CEOs or founders or individuals have is that they don't want to acknowledge that. There is a biblical passage that talks about confess your faults one to another that you may be healed. What that means to me is that acknowledging what it is that's driving this behavior. And I also tell individuals to understand that it is a behavior and not an identity. And that's powerful. I want everybody to understand that the behavior is not the identity. So it's not that I'm not worthy. I'm not feeling worthy right now. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And then I'm not good enough. I'm not feeling not good enough. So then I can ask myself the right questions. What is it that's driving this behavior? What is it that's making me feel this way? Because one of the things I teach my client is that a feeling is just an emotion that wants to communicate with us and leave. So once we understand that, stop and just take some deep breaths. And everybody can do that. When you have that feeling, I'm not good enough, just stop and just take some deep breathing, put your body back in parasympathetic nervous system is now activated, that now you can think. And once you become to think, different ideas would come up. And one of the things I share with individuals is this, Kerry, is not to ask yourself why, ask yourself what questions. What is it that's driving this behavior? How can I move forward? Sometimes when we ask ourselves why questions, our subconscious mind will take us to a deep place that we start to uncover things that we don't even know that's there. And so what questions are usually better questions, and how questions, and what is it I need to do? And then listen to it and take some inspired action.
I love the idea of changing the identity into a, this is how I'm feeling. I haven't heard it put that way. So yeah, every time I feel like, I'm not a good leader.
Yeah.
No, I'm feeling like I'm not a good leader. What is causing that feeling?
Yes.
And then instead of why am I feeling this way, what is causing this feeling? And then the answer is, okay, now what can I do about it?
My philosophy is that we have all the resources within ourselves to become the best version of ourselves. That's my truth. That's what I believe. So that when I ask my higher self, now some people say I'm asking God, some people say I'm asking the Holy Spirit, whatever you're asking that actually drives that source within you, this is what I can tell you to be true. It will give you answers. I mean, some powerful answers. And it might be something simple like, hey, you remember when you did this wonderful things. You remember when how you beat drug abuse. You remember when all of these things that you accomplished. So now you're just having a moment. And guess what? I tell those people, it's okay, Kerry, not to be okay. But it's not okay to pretend you're okay and you're not. So this is what things, as leaders, guys, it's okay for us to be not okay every day. It's like, that's part of life. I teach this stuff, and some days I feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? But then I say, you know what? What do I need to learn today? What is it, Curtis, that's driving this behavior? What is it that I need to learn today in order for me to move forward?
Very powerful. Going back to what you said, most people don't want to dig into where is this behavior coming from?
Yes.
And for me, until I had that rock bottom moment, is that I was too afraid I think it was a combination of two things. One, I was afraid to really look at it.
Yeah.
And two, I didn't have the tools to even understand how to go look at it.
Yeah.
And I share with people who are in that kind of place where they're resisting digging deep that yes, it might be painful at first, but it is so incredibly freeing when you understand yourself and you start to understand why that behavior is coming up, what those patterns are, and how to break them, that it's way more painful to stay in that pattern that isn't getting you what you want than it is to face it and to do what you need to do to break that pattern. And I still have people who don't believe me. So, right? I mean, and everybody's on their own journey and they have to do it at their own time. But how do you help people who are kind of resistant? Like, I don't know if I want to go there. I don't want to open that wound again.
Well, you know, that's one of the challenges is that I think in the book, Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the fact that you have to decide. Part of it is you have to show up, right? Now, you might have some doubts about what I do and how I do it, but you have to be willing to let go and says, okay, I'm ready to let this go. You have to decide that part. I can't make a person, and I try definitely not force anybody to do anything. I'm giving you the information and your job is to follow up. If you don't, I'm not going to chase you because that's not my job. I can't force you to do what you don't want to do. I want to work with people who are ready to be worked on. I mean, ready to do the work. Like you said before, you can teach them, preach them, and like they're not ready, they're not ready. But what I try to do is encouraging individuals to stop and let them know that it's okay not to be okay. And yeah, it is. I'm telling you right now, guys, it is work. It is hard work, but it's so rewarding that it's worth the journey. Some of the tools that I use, I've been able to get rid of years of baggage in less than hours. Once we find out what the root cause is and we do what we do, you'll feel like I do what I call a one-day mindset reset, where we just blow out all the things that are actually stopping you from having your whatever that is. And then we start laying the foundation. So yes, it is hard. Yes, it is difficult. And yes, it takes work. And yes, you have to show up. That's your part. My part as the facilitator is to show up and give you what you need and help you through that process. But yes, I agree with you. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yep. Yes. So that leads me to then, how do you use hypnotherapy? And when you talk about the physical and emotional release, are you using something like tapping? Talk a little bit about hypnotherapy and what your methods do.
So my methods is normally we do a cognitive part of it. The cognitive part is to find out what all the issues are, what all of these little leaves that's on this tree that's driving this current behavior. And then we look for the root. What is it, that one thing, usually one or two things that truly drives that behavior? In your case, could have been the message that your father said, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. That could have been it. And then all from that brings anger, guilt, sadness, all these other emotions. So the first thing we do once we determine that, we align your core values. Values is your deepest level program that most people have never stopped to analyze. So we align your core values to figure out what is it that drives your behavior. And usually what I find when we do the core value session is we find more baggage, usually around money. Most of the time, it's around money. So then when we have all of these things, what it is, so we release them through mental and emotional release. Mental and emotional release is a form of timeline therapy where we now ask the subconscious mind, first of all, we get permission of the subconscious mind. Is it okay for you to release this today and be aware of it consciously? Then we asked it the second question, what is the root cause of this event? The first time that it ever happened. Then if you were to know, I asked 3 questions. If what you were to know, was it before, during, or after birth? Now I tell my clients, don't do it consciously. Just whatever comes up, the first thing that comes up, let it come up. And then that's what our starting point is. Then we go from there, and then we look at that event on a high level to see what are the learnings we need to get from it. The subconscious mind loves learnings. Once it learns what it needs from that event, it releases the emotional energy from around it. It's one of the most powerful things that I utilize, and it's by Dr. Matt James, and I think the name of the book is Mental and Emotional Release. And so I'm a master practitioner in that. Now, understanding that mental and emotional release is a hypnotic modality, meaning I'm not getting you a formal trance. When you go through hypnotherapy, I might say, hey, Kerry, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. Now let's relax the body from the head down to the toe. That's what we call an induction. We're going to induce relaxation. But mental emotional release is more like a waking type of trance where you allow the subconscious mind just to focus on that which we're talking about and release the negative energy. And it normally takes about less than 10 minutes per emotion. So if it's sadness, normally we start with anger and then we go to sadness, because anger normally, once you release anger, it's going to go to sadness, and then we go to fear and guilt and shame and get rid of those. But it takes about 10 minutes per event. So then what we do is once we gather all of those new learnings up, what your new objective is and what your values are, then I put all of that together and then I construct what I call a bespoke daily mental supplement, which is a hypnotic event for you. So we do hypnosis with that. So now the learning could be that I'm more than good enough. When my dad said that, based on his resources, that's who he was. But I'm looking at it now, he's like, I'm a beautiful, lovely young lady, and I have all the resources to become the best version of myself. That could be the learning, right? So now I'm telling you this in a hypnotic type voice, like, okay, Kerry, go ahead and close your eyes. Now, picture yourself on this beach in the scenery where you always relax. Allow yourself just to be who you are, and allow the waves come in and out, knowing that those are your emotions that you now have really no control over, but it's okay. So now we talk about, we put you in a scene, and then we say, okay, Kerry, you are more than enough. You're beautiful. You are resourceful. You have all the things that you need to become the best version of yourself. So we do a lot of affirmations like that. So I utilize all of the tools that I have so that a person can now take that recording, and they are required to listen to that 5 or 10 minute recording every day for the first 30 days. Because once again, it's conditioning. It's like, oh, I changed. Think about what you went through. You still have to condition your mind almost daily to stay who you are. And that's what it's all about. So I help you do that through the things. And if we're doing a 3-month coaching, we're going to have more than one. We're going to have several different meditations or hypnosis that I take you through.
And what does the research show for that sticking? Because that's the big thing, right?
The hypnotherapy that I practice is called integral hypnotherapy. And with integral hypnotherapy, they've done studies. They did some studies on bladder control. And when they did bladder control with hypnotherapy and bladder control with medications and things, it had about a 93 to 98% stickiness, meaning like it's pretty solid. But just like anything else, if the mind is not always continuing to be conditioned, always think about lights, right? You turn the light on and turn the light off. That's how close this thing is. And I think one of the things I tell individuals is that even for me, I still have to condition my mind. And the way I do that, Kerry, is little things. When commercials come on, I mute them. I don't need that because I'm not sick.
I don't need to listen to those advertisements telling me I need this pill.
Why would a company spend billions of dollars on advertising on something that you cannot go out to buy? You can't go out and buy it. You got to be prescribed. So it's all about the fact that they are normalizing sickness.
Yep. And they're putting it into your head. I might have this wrong with me.
And they're betting that maybe not my drug, but you're going to buy somebody's drug. And once you get on one, you're going to have to get on another and another and another and another. So what I'm saying is that we have to protect our minds. I teach my clients too how to do self-hypnosis so that they can now create these things for themselves, to put themselves in a trance and like just relax. And then sometimes what I do, I just do walking. I mean, simple things like walking moves energy. So I do a lot of walking. It's not just hypnotherapy, because trance, this is the thing about it, what people don't understand. We go in and out of trance or hypnosis almost every 90 minutes or so. You'll find yourself sitting at your desk, you're like, you know, you hear someone calling your name, Kerry, Kerry, Kerry. You're like, I don't really hear them because I'm stuck in my little world. You're like in a little mental trance. What we do though, I teach you how to do it on purpose with purpose so that now you're going into trance with purpose. And sometimes I tell people I have to get you out of trance because you've been hypnotized by negative beliefs and negative emotions and things of that nature so long. Now we need to reprogram you and put you in a different trance.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I want to go back to one thing that you said before we start to wrap up this podcast. You said that you help your clients understand who they want to become. So
Yes.
becoming before doing and before having.
Yes.
Can you talk about what it means to become and why that's so important to do before you do and have?
Think about it like this. We need a North Star, right? And we need something who we're going to be. Most of the time we want to have, he says, okay, I want 6 figures. That's what we want to have. But if we don't become the version that we want, who we want to become, once we get it, it won't mean anything anyway. So I have a North Star, right? My North Star could be helping others, being healthy, exercising daily, being more receptive and being present with my family. Those are my North Stars. That's who I want to become. I want to become this guy that's magnetic. I want to become the guy that loves individuals. I want to become the guy that really has a lot of passion. That's who I want to become. So I'm always moving towards that regardless of what happens in my life. And that's who I want to be, because when I be that person, if I'm being that person, being authentic, if I'm that person who's being magnetic, if I'm that person who's giving what I feel like the world needs, that never changes. The money could change, the money could fall away, but that's who I'm becoming. And usually what happens is that when you be who you want to be, the having and the doing becomes so much easier. So just become who you want to become. So the way we do that is that we start with the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical being. It's a Hawaiian principle that I put into my practice. So it's the spiritual being, the mental and emotional and physical being. And we take your values that you now we've discovered in a line, and we use those values in a paragraph to describe your spiritual being.
Thank you for sharing. I had to shift from doing to being in my journey of healing and recovery and being a leader who was worth following, because doing wasn't getting me what I wanted. I had to figure out, how do I be? How can I just be and then become the person I want? But that's why it piqued my curiosity.
Yeah. Basically, and then once you become the person you want and the person you always striving to be, because it's always a journey. This is a journey that we're on. And that's what we talk about learning. It's not like once you get there, you made it. No. Now, guess what? You learn, you grow, expand, and transform. Once you have this transformation, now Kerry's a new person. She has new learning. She has new growth. She has new expanding and new transformation. So it's always a continuous process. It's a never-ending process. And some people believe it even happens in the afterlife, where we continue to learn and grow and expand and transform.
Beautiful. All right. Last question to wrap things up, and then I'll ask you how people can find you. The name of this podcast is Reflect Forward. What does Reflect Forward mean to you?
Meaning that when I can stop and look at where I've been. I think when you talk about reflect forward is seeing the growth and understanding the growth that I've experienced, understanding that I can become anything I want to become, and I can let go of anything I want to let go of. And some of the things that I had to let go of, and some of the most painful things that me and my wife had to experience when we lost our son about 4.5 years ago. And losing him gave me a totally different perspective. And that's one of the things that really solidified the legit mindset of learning, growing, expanding, and transforming. So when you think about having that focus, it's like when you look back and see your learnings, because sometimes, Kerry, and you know this probably from, it's like when you're in it, when you've been hit with setbacks, heartbreaks, and failures, and then the path starts to clear, and you don't really see what the ending is going to be like. And then you look back and says, wow, yeah, that was bad, but man, what I went through has so many learnings in it that I became the person I am today because of what I experienced yesterday.
That's why I look at my substance abuse and my overdose. It was the worst day of my life and the best day of my life because it completely changed the trajectory. It's like that Chinese fable with the farmer. His horse dies and then he gets a new one, and then his son falls off and breaks his leg and doesn't go to war, but he's just like, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. And I certainly look at everything through that lens of being really grateful for anything that's good that happens in the moment, because it doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. And understanding that it might feel really bad in the moment, but there's going to be learnings and growth from it, and it could lead to something really amazing. And that's certainly what that day in 2006 did for me. It was the best day of my life, even though I hit rock bottom.
Yeah, we can hit rock bottom one or two ways. We can hit rock bottom personally, or we can hit rock bottom by understanding and looking at other individuals that gone through it and make a decision. And it's whatever it takes for a person to become who they need to be, and understand that this is a process, guys. It's an ever-growing process. It's a never-ending process. We're always doing it. So, like I said before, when I read your bio and read a little bit about you, you are already a part of my life and your journey. I really appreciate it and continue the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for sharing with us about the loss of your son, and my condolences. I can only imagine how difficult that was.
Yes.
Yep. And still is.
Yes. That's what people say. It's interesting about loss and grief. It's like, they say, oh, today is Christmas coming up. I says, no, you know what? Sometimes it's a Thursday.
Right.
It's not like moments. It's not like his birthday or big holidays. Sometimes it's just a Thursday. It's like, oh, what is it that's driving this feeling and emotions? Oh, then we says, oh, yeah, I know what it is. I miss my son.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. All right. So how can people find you if they would like to work with you?
They can go to my website, either Bespoke Human Potential Coaching or curtismccallum.com. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, and all of the major social media platforms. But the easiest way to go to my website, you can do a 15-minute free clarity call, or we can also do a 30-minute. When you look at my site, you'll see something's for sales and something's for transformation. And we can dig a little bit deeper to see where you are and how can I help and support you. If not, that's okay. Maybe you'll still learn a whole lot in the 15 to 30 minutes that we spend together.
Wonderful. I'll include all that in the show notes. And Curtis, thank you so much for coming on the show. I could talk to you about this stuff all day.
It's been a pleasure. It's been fun.
Thanks again. Hang tight and I'll be right back. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Curtis. It's such a great way to think about pattern recognition and breaking those patterns, and using something like mental emotional release and hypnotherapy to help you. I certainly know it has helped me. All right, with that, I will leave you to your day. If you like this podcast episode, you think someone could benefit from it, please share it with them. And of course, if you like this podcast overall, go on to YouTube and subscribe to it, or your favorite podcast platform, leave a review and send me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, have a great day, and we'll see you next week.